Welcome to AM Best Audio.
Not since the dawn of the internet has any technology had as big an impact on the insurance industry as artificial intelligence seems to be having at this very moment. I'm John Weber for Best Review Magazine, and I'm speaking today to Brandon Nuttall, Chief Digital and AI Officer for Xceedance. Brandon, so glad you could join us today.
Thank you for having me.
So, Brandon, how do insurers move from hype to value when it comes to generative AI?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I think the best way for insurance executives to think about this problem is that generative AI is really good at providing knowledge, but it's not actually good yet at providing wisdom. And so I would encourage senior leaders to identify and start thinking about knowledge-heavy but wisdom-light pockets in their respective organizations. And then think about kind of what an implementation model might look like. The next most important thing would be to think about how you implement tactically, but also think strategically. AI is not a thing that you're going to deliver as a point in time and then move on with your tech strategy. I think that as things progress, AI will become more and more the center of every senior leader's tech strategy. And so realistically, the strategic strategy kind of needs to be in place over the next 18 to 24 months.
How are insurers using AI in real-world situations?
Yeah. So insurers are thinking in terms of kind of now, next, and beyond, right? So right now, insurers are thinking about what human-in-the-loop capabilities might look like. And these are real live use cases kind of around document data extraction, customer service, and customer communications. Now, next, organizations are going to be thinking about agents coaching humans. So as we kind of get over the hump and organizations start implementing strategic capabilities, agents are not going to yet have the wisdom and human judgment of operators of systems. But what they will have is they will have access to 10, 20, 30, even 40 years of data for rapid retrieval. So I expect to see things like next best action agents and negotiation coaches to become much more relevant and prevalent. And then finally, when we look at beyond, when we look at beyond the next 3 to 5 years, we're really looking at in organizations where rather than humans working alongside the technology, humans will actually be managing teams of autonomous agents. So realistically, I think that most of the effort inside of organizations will be delivered by machines in 2030, and the humans will basically be working with and coaching and guiding that machine intelligence.
Brandon, how will AI impact and improve the operating models for insurers?
I think what we're already seeing is that AI is both raising the ceiling and raising the floor, right? So, with AI capabilities, there's never been the opportunity for underwriters to be, more productive than they can be today, right? Likewise, there are a lot more tools to make it so that, people who are new into your organization, have access to the knowledge of your most senior people, right? So in that way, AI has the capability to raise the ceiling and raise the floor. I think then over time, what you'll start to see is, the humans right now are explicitly in the loop. I think organizations will be looking for opportunities to move out of the loop, and realistically, delegate more overall decision making to the AIs themselves. I think the final thing is if you zoom out from all this, we've seen a huge amount of improvement in the capability of these tools since November 2022 when the original ChatGPT came out. The capabilities that you're able to access, on tap for free on the internet are somewhere between 100 and 1,000 times better than they were barely even 2.5 years ago. So I think my message to senior leaders would be, this point in time right now is the worst these capabilities will ever be. And that senior leaders should be planning the future and their AI strategy based on that fact.
What should insurers be doing right now to bring AI into their organizations?
Yeah, that's great. So I think there's 3 things that senior leaders should be thinking about right now. I think the first thing is strategic platform. We live and we work in a very highly regulated industry. We have lots of different regulators, but particularly if you are a multinational organization, you may have to operate in California, in Utah, in London, in Sydney, right? And realistically, a strategic platform will support your organization in basically being able to write one capability in one place and then roll that out in a safe and scalable way. I think the second thing is that this is an opportunity for organizations to finally sort out data. One of the things that generative AI has over traditional AI techniques is that actually they can pick up a lot more from the context surrounding the piece of data that you want. So, I'm sure that, the watchers of this podcast will recognize that, traditional machine intelligence techniques for extracting data from things like underwriting slips and policy documents, those have frequently been very, very costly and have failed to deliver the value they had initially promised. So realistically, generative AI is really the first opportunity that most insurers can actually grasp to really sort out their data and kind of get it into a place where it can easily be consumed by these AIs going forward. I think the final thing is kind of going back to the previous question. It's really about understanding impacts to the overall operating model. And this is not just a technology domain thing. This is also a business domain thing. Organizations could take this as a fresh opportunity to look at their roles and skills, their strategies around building versus buying, and so on and so forth.
Brandon, what do insurers get wrong about AI?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think what insurers get wrong about AI, and it's really on two extremes, right? So on one extreme is that Gen AI will have no impact on their organization. Somehow, their organization, their particular classes of business are immune. On the other hand, I talk to organizations that really think that generative AI is kind of magic pixie dust, and all you have to do is sprinkle AI on something and it will solve all your problems, right? AI is really an opportunity to take a fresh look at your tech strategy, at your people strategy, and really kind of get ready for the future, which is right around the corner. And of course, the real truth is somewhere in the middle, right? This is not magic pixie dust, but it does unlock a huge amount of capability and a huge amount of data that most insurers are just now even trying to figure out how to get value from.
Who should the stakeholders in an insurance organization be when it comes to AI?
Yeah, great question. I think senior leaders should think about who is primarily responsible for delivering knowledge into your business, right? So for certain insurers, that could be sponsored by the CUO or the COO. Other organizations see that much more as being in the tech domain. Now, personally, I see most successful organizations that is a mix between the COO's office and the CIO's office. But regardless as to actually who the core stakeholder is, really this is the right time to get the strategy and get the strategy right, because I firmly believe that doing nothing is no longer an option.
Brandon, what AI technologies have the most potential to impact the insurance industry over the next 5 years or so?
Yeah, I think there's two things that I would name check here. I think the first is sovereign AI. So I think a lot of organizations have been, they've been a bit slow to adopt AI technologies, mainly because, that there's been justifiable fear of sending data to somebody else's cloud for processing. I think that with DeepSeek and a lot of the sovereign AI capabilities which are emerging, it is more and more possible to have powerful AI which lives in your own data center. And that unlocks the potential for a lot of organizations who would not or could not have previously conceived of doing AI kind of holistically throughout their organizations. It gives them powerful tools to really take their first step in their AI journey. I think the other thing to be thinking about is agentic AI. And I think the message that I'd like to kind of send when it comes to agentic AI is that, AIs which can use tools, these are things that have existed now for the better part of a year. And that, I like the William Gibson quote, the future is already here, it's just not evenly distributed. I think that other organizations in other parts outside of financial services are commonly using agentic AI to solve major business problems. And as we as an industry and as the regulators become increasingly comfortable with AI usage and AI deployment in our highly regulated industry, that it will become more and more possible to deploy more and more robust AI agents into organizations.
Brandon, thanks so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Greatly appreciated.
That was Brandon Nuttall, Chief Digital and AI Officer for Xceedance. And I'm John Weber for Best Review Magazine.
Looking to get the full attention of the insurance industry? We have the platforms that will do just that. Whether it be AM Best TV, AM Best Audio, Best Review Magazine, or Best Day. Find out more by calling AM Best Advertising Sales at 908-439-2200, extension 5399, and have a great day.